Good morning, everybody. I think we'll get started. Can everybody hear me okay in the back and stuff? All right, excellent. Welcome to the University of Waterloo. This is really the first time. This is really the first time we've been able to welcome our alumni back to the campus in the past 2 years because of the pandemic. So it's just so good to see all of you. So I am going to do the Dean's Lecture, my very first Dean's Lecture I'm going to do for you guys in person. So I just want to let you know, if you have a question, this is how you raise your hand in real life instead of on Zoom. And I see that we have the super keeners in the front that said they were super keeners when they were students as well. So anyway, my name is Mary Wells. I'm so pleased and privileged to be the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering here at the University of Waterloo. I did start in this role in July 2020 during the height of the pandemic, although we didn't know it then. We kept thinking, well, this thing should be over in a few more months, but it's now turned out to be over 2 years. And hopefully we are coming to the end of it. So I'm so pleased to be able to meet many of you. Thank you for coming back to campus. Thank you for supporting the university, seeing what we're doing today, participating in this event. And I really want to give a particular shout out to some of the class reps. Who are the class reps here? If you can just raise your hands. I think we owe them a great round of applause for all the work in getting all of you guys out here today. So thank you so much. So really, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit today about what we're doing in the faculty, what things are going on now. And please feel free to interrupt me at any time by raising your hand or shouting out or whatever you might want to do.
Could I just mention, too, the session is being recorded.
Oh, right, yeah.
Too, so, and it'll be online after. So I'm going to ask Mary to go in between
right, okay.
the two screens.
I will. Okay, I'm moving over here. Right, there's the camera, so okay. So the session is being recorded. Are people watching live as well? No.
No live streaming, but
okay.
it will be available online.
Afterwards, So before we begin the lecture, I did just want to acknowledge the land that we sit on. For all of us that know that live in Canada, there's, with the Truth and Reconciliation Report, we do have an obligation to re-examine our relationship with our Indigenous people. And one of the ways we manifest that at the University of Waterloo is to think about the land that the university is based on. So really, much of our work does take place on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our main campus is situated on the Haldeman track, which you can see in the picture right here, to give you a sense of what that track looks like. And that really includes 6 miles on either side of the Grand River. So we are doing quite a bit of work towards active reconciliation that's taking place across all of our campuses. And today you will hear a little bit more about our beginning steps towards that and some of the things we're doing to integrate Indigenous ways of knowing and being into the curriculum, both for our faculty and staff to learn, but also our students. So I always hate this part of the lecture because we have to talk about the people that we lost in the past year. And I must say that during the pandemic in the past 2 years, this faculty has lost an incredible number of really wonderful people, including my predecessor, Pearl Sullivan, who very unfortunately passed away in November 2020. But I'm not going to read out all their names, but I just wanted to give you a sense of some of the people that we've lost in this past year, and maybe just take 30 seconds for a moment of silence to think about them. I know some of them may have been your professors, or some of them may have been close to you. Okay. So, brighter news. We are back on campus. So this term, well, the winter term was really the first time we came back in force. We were hoping to be back right at the start of January. Unfortunately, with the Omicron variant, we did have to delay that. So we managed to reopen the campus fully February 3rd to welcome the winter students onto campus. So that's just amazing. This term we have started back on campus, and we have every anticipation that our fall term will also be back on campus. And so really, after 2 years of predominantly remote education, we are together in person. And I must say, when I look at the students and I see their smiles and I see them studying, we used to have, last term we had these tables on the second floor of E7, if you've seen it. It's our big event space. And I would walk past in the morning and see them studying. I would walk past in the evening, see them studying. And it just gave me motivation to work harder too. I just they're always studying. So it was just so amazing to see them all. So, and they've told me, they learn so much better in person. They're motivated by each other. They're able to work together. So it's just been such a big change in their learning. We have had challenges. We found that our incoming students are they're lacking in some of the math skills and some of the math fundamentals because they were educated during the pandemic. So we have put systems and protocols in place to help them become math ready. We've seen it's really the math skills that have been challenging for the students. So we have put math readiness programs. We'll have another math readiness program for any students that are coming in for September. Some of them don't need it, but some of them definitely do need it. And so research is back in person, teaching is back in person. We still have the mask mandate, but my sense is this will be lifted by the end of June. We really wanted to get through convocation where we have a number of people from outside coming in, and part of it may be kind of psychologically feeling better about what's going on for our faculty, staff, and our students. So my sense is the university will be lifting the mask mandate by the end of June. We also had a vaccine mandate in place. That has now been lifted as of May 1st. This is just some pictures of our students, but I just really want to assure you that we have prepared for a safe return to campus and really a staggered return to campus. When we did start to bring them in February, we did still have distancing requirements, not in the classroom, but in other areas. And in any cohorts where we did see there was a little bit of an uptick in cases, we quickly were able to move them online for a week or so, and that really seemed to help manage what was going on. So I would say we've had a very safe and I would say productive return to campus in terms of optimizing the opportunities we have to be in person together. So this is one of the first days, our welcome back day. Some of you that were involved in NSHOC may recognize this or the tool and things, and I'm in the middle in case you can't recognize me with my mask on, but on my right is who was the president of NSHOC at the time, Kat, and they were just so happy to be back. And I did attend their end of year event at the end of April, and I heard many songs about the tool I hadn't heard yet. But anyway, that was an eye-opener. But they also started singing songs about chugging beer and things, and I went to McGill University, and all those words came back to me suddenly. So I was singing along with them, so I knew all the words, which much to my surprise. So it was very fun, though. The other thing I started this last term was really, and I started it in the fall term last year, because then we were in a hybrid mode where some people were in person that wanted to be in somewhere online. And I just wanted to create a sense of community and also make sure the dean was accessible to the students, the faculty, and the staff, because I had started during the pandemic and they were calling me the pandemic dean. And so they saw my name everywhere, but they never actually saw me in person physically. So every Thursday, we've continued the tradition. I come downstairs to the C&D at the bottom of E7, in the basement of E7, and I'm just there for an hour and a half, just to let the students come by, let the faculty and staff come by, and just hear what they're talking about. What are the things that are the most important to them in that moment in time, right? What are the things they're worried about? And I must say, it's just been the most wonderful and positive thing. I've heard very good things from the students. They all know who I am, which is really good. They're like, who's the dean? They know because of all these reminder emails about the coffee and conversation. And we have a mix of first years through to PhD students, and they're there supporting each other. And so part of it is me being there to catalyze this, but really they're meeting each other and they're having conversations. And this term I started doing special guest speakers or guests at the coffee and conversation. So it's a way for them to be introduced to their chairs, to faculty members and things like that. So it's just been wonderful for me as well to get to know the community better and to hear again, what are the things that they're worried about? What are the things they're thinking about? It gives me a different insight into the faculty. Okay, who's got that going on in class? I might have to kick you out. I'm joking. The other big thing, one of our signature areas at the University of Waterloo is our co-op, as you know, and all of you would have gone through co-op. And I just want to let you know our co-op term has completely rebounded from the pandemic. During the height of the pandemic, we did struggle because companies weren't sure what to do. Can people work remotely and things? But now our placement rates are higher than they have ever been. So as the world reopened, our co-op jobs are coming back in strength. And we're offering flexible approaches and resources to help our students find the work term opportunity they want while helping organizations find the talent they need. So our co-op students are in huge demand. So just to give you a sense, even last winter, we had a placement rate of about 98%. This spring was unbelievable in terms of the demand for the talent, the tech talent that we are providing. Spring 2020 in comparison was about 84%, just to give you a comparison in terms of the damaging effects that COVID did have on our students. And I must say, we did send out an appeal to alumni, faculty, and staff, and they were so generous in terms of either finding jobs for the students or providing some funds so that we could find jobs internally. And during that pandemic phase, we actually hired many of these students internally to help us deliver, design and deliver our materials remotely. So that was very, very good. So. And again, just to give you a sense, some numbers, you're engineers, so you like numbers, but engineering students earned on average about $23,000 US on US work terms since about 2020, so a really, fairly good rate of pay. There is a saying here, Cali or bust, because some of these California jobs are some of the most desirable, partially because of being in the valley and things like that, I guess the rate of pay, but often these students come back. And I must say, at one of my coffee and conversations, many of the students said to me, I was like, oh, are you thinking about working in California when you're finished? And they said, no, we're gonna stay here because this is the place to be in terms of tech talent for the future. And I was so pleasantly surprised to hear that. So there is a shift now in terms of where students want to be. Perhaps the pandemic, thinking they want to be closer to family, I'm not sure, but there is a little bit of a shift in terms of the aspirations of our students into the future. And again, just to give you a sense of the number of co-op jobs in the past year, about 8,100 students placed. And that's reflective of the number of students in our program. So again, we continue to be the largest co-op program in the entire world and really are a model for the rest of the world. How do we create those work, learning, integrated experiences for students? Okay, let's clap about that one. Thank you. I did come across this graph that I wanted to share with you. It was out of a report that was written last year, broadly looking at tech talent and innovation, predominantly in North America, I guess. But I thought this was very interesting because it's on the y-axis, we have, there's my laser pointer, we have kind of average annual salary for a software engineer. So it is focused in software engineering. But then on the x-axis, they have what they call quality. How high quality are the talent that we're producing? And so you get a sense of where people map out and where, where regions map out. And so you can see clearly that in Canada, we're way down here in terms of how much we're paying. So I think we're underpaying our tech talent. But then I was so proud to see that, Waterloo region is over at that far right-hand side in terms of the quality of the tech talent in this region. So what is the result of this? When this kind of information gets out there, you're going to see more and more companies starting to set up shop here, Toronto, wherever it is, because of the availability of really high-quality talent in this region and in Canada. So I think we will see a shift now towards more and more companies recognizing this opportunity because of the talent pool that we have here in terms of the quality of our tech talent. So that's just a little bit about certain things that are going on right now. I just wanted to remind you of our strategic plan, our vision for the future of Waterloo engineering, and really it was my predecessor that came up with this, but it really resonates with me as well, but really that we're about inspiring leaders to define new frontiers. We're upholding the tradition of co-op. That is one of our signature areas that distinguishes from any other program, engineering program in the world, I would say. Many people are copying what we're doing, but really we were the first, and we continue to lead the way in redefining what cooperative education looks like. We will continue to stimulate our entrepreneurial spirit, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the really interesting things we have going on around entrepreneurship, because I think that's another signature aspect of what we do here at Waterloo Engineering that we need to continue to nurture, cultivate, and find new ways to provide opportunities to our students that do have an interest in entrepreneurship. And I know many of you here have also gone on to be entrepreneurs. Now, how many people here have considered themselves an entrepreneur? Okay, so we've got, okay, Lucas, put your hand up. Look, even though you graduated, some of you more recently, some of you many years ago, that kind of an entrepreneurial spirit has always been amongst our students. And so we are continuing to nurture it. And definitely there's even more. Now, I graduated from McGill University, so it was different from Waterloo. But in my day, I graduated in 1987, so 35 years ago. But really, in my memory, it was the students that couldn't get a job that were kind of seen as the low-quality students that had to go off and create their own job. That was the sense at McGill, whereas the best students got the top jobs with the top big companies. Today, it's the opposite. it's really our top students that are going off to be the entrepreneurs and really admired for being courageous, brave, risk-taking, and things like that. So the whole dynamic has completely shifted in terms of the aspirations of people for what kind of careers they want to have and how they want to change the world and make it a better place. So it's really been a shift, not just at Waterloo, but I think across the country and maybe across North America and the world as well, in terms of the opportunities entrepreneurship provides to people. And really, finally, I guess, so, you know, that our engineers and architects are committed to serving society. That's what engineers do, and we've all taken the obligation, the Iron Ring ceremony, and we are here to serve society. Those are the roots of engineering and the ethics behind what we do, where the public always is at the forefront of any decision we make, above cost, above money, and all these kinds of things, and really building a better future for generations to come. And so those are the tenets, the principles under which we continue to develop our educational programs and graduate students for the future. Okay, some more numbers for the engineers. So just by the numbers. This is just from 21 to 22, our academic year, so May 21 till April 22. But just to give you a sense, about 8,600 undergraduate students. We continue to be the largest engineering program in Canada, both in terms of our undergraduate population, but also the number of faculty we have. Our international is still quite low, about 12%. Some other universities like U of T has more like 40% international students at their undergraduate program. I think that was a deliberate strategic decision they had made a number of years ago. We have always felt that we had an obligation to Ontario, with the public assistance we get from the government, to prioritize kind of domestic students and things. So we've got about 12% undergraduate students, about 2,200 graduate students. And our graduate students, and I think this is an area where we can continue to refine the experiences of our graduate students, but there are really two types of graduate students. We've got our research students that help advance knowledge and scholarship in particular disciplines of engineering, and so they could be a Master's of Applied Science or PhD students or Masters of Architecture students. But we've also got our kind of course-based students, which are really students that have done an undergraduate degree but want to develop kind of a more specialized or deeper amount of knowledge in a particular area. And so so just finding the right blend and balance of those graduate students. And, you know, learning from our undergraduate program, one of the things we're trying to do now is look at ways to integrate cooperative education into our graduate program, in particular for the course-based students that are in certain areas. So if you're doing an MEng in chip design or in cybersecurity or something like that, how can we have part of that experience be a cooperative experience? It won't be as long as the undergraduate, but maybe just for a term. So we're really actively looking at ways to transform, I would say, our graduate education. And then you get a sense of our faculty, our staff. And then while I was dean, we actually surpassed the 50,000 alumni mark. So that was really exciting. So we're about 53,000 alumni today. And after next the convocation in a few weeks, it'll increase by another about 2,000 or so. So we're really doing well. We're still a very, very young university. In terms of university years, we're probably like a teenager right now if we compare ourselves to U of T, McGill, which are kind of middle-aged, I would say. We're kind of young and vibrant. And we continue to be a top 50 university in the entire world. That's an unbelievable outcome. Again, when you think of that we are a teenager right now in terms of our age in university years, we have really done exceptionally well in terms of the recognition around the world of what it means to be a graduate from Waterloo Engineering. So we continue to keep your degree strong, that brand strong, but also the kinds of things we're doing to advance knowledge into the future in advancing the scholarship of engineering in particular disciplines and moving that knowledge forward. Again, in terms of how we're structured, when you were here, there may not, I don't know if there was this many departments, but we've got 8 departments. So you can see, electrical and computer engineering is our largest, having close to 100 faculty members, so about a third of our faculty. Mechanical and mechatronics engineering, systems design engineering, management sciences. I'm trying to convince management sciences to change their name to management sciences and engineering, but we'll see how that goes. Chemical engineering, civil and environmental engineering. And we are so fortunate that beyond those 6 kind of core departments around engineering, we also have a School of Architecture, and they're based out on the Cambridge campus. Is anybody here from architecture at all, a grad from architecture? Nobody here. As they sometimes have more specialized alumni events in Cambridge. So we do have a satellite campus in Cambridge. And then also, a Conrad School of Entrepreneurship and Business. And that really just became a school where they offer academic programs not that long ago, maybe I think it's 5 or 6 or 7 years ago now. But we are so lucky to have a School of Business and Entrepreneurship right next to our engineering programs. No other faculty in the country has this, and very few, I think, even in the States. But it affords us with interesting opportunities around collaboration and interdisciplinarity between business and engineering, entrepreneurship and engineering, which really form a very nice synergistic partnership, I would say. Oops. Okay, there we go. Undergraduate enrollment. And again, this is just the breakdown of how where our students are based. And again, you can see that really it is our electrical and computer engineering, which many of you would be graduate from, that continues to be our largest undergraduate program with about 3,000 students in it, followed by mechanical and mechatronics engineering, systems design engineering, chemical engineering, and then our kind of smallest one in terms of engineering is management sciences. A very, very strong program, but a little bit smaller than the other ones. It's the way that they count them. I don't know about, very good question. I think it's the way that they count them in terms of, because we couldn't have a part-time student, so it's the way that they're counted. There may be some students that are maybe extending their degree a little bit so that they become a fractional student at the end, and so that's why we end up, but I know that looks a little odd, but it's really those ones that are taking a little bit longer, I think, that end up being in the count still, but really aren't a full student anymore, so they've just got a couple of courses to complete. Very good question, very observant. Okay, something you guys might be interested in. We wanted to give you a sense of the admissions by final average, and the reason I put this up here is just to show you that Waterloo Engineering continues to be a destination of choice for people. A lot of people want to come here, and I know, Lucas, your son just got in, so you can be very proud of how he did when you look at the pool. But really, we're looking at the percentage of students on the y-axis versus the year over time. Now, I would say 2021, I know the marks look incredibly high. I'll tell you, when I went to McGill, I had an 85% average. And I wasn't sure if I'd get in, but I did. I got into Waterloo too, but I chose to go to McGill because I grew up in Montreal. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna pass Waterloo, so I'll stay in McGill. But anyway, but I think it's partially the pandemic. We have seen that grades have risen significantly in high schools because of the pandemic. People are doing open book tests, online tests, things like that. So we have seen that. So I think this is going to change into the future as we've opened up, as high schools go back to more robust measures of testing. We've also seen internally for our marks went up as well internally because of maybe open book tests. We didn't have that high stakes exams. Professors went to more a series of tests versus a high stakes midterm and final and things like that to try and help the students through as well. So I think that'll settle down a bit. But really, when we look at kind of grades of 90 to 94%, about 30% of our students have that. About 67% of our students are 95 plus. How do you tell the difference between the students that got a 95 or 96? They're all good students, I mean, really. So when we look at admissions now, we have a couple of components. We have the marks as one component that can help us. We now do an interview. It's not mandatory, but it helps to give us an insight into the students, why they want to go into engineering, how they'll interview in a co-op job maybe. And then the third component is the academic information form that just tells us a little bit more about them in terms of the kinds of things they've been involved in high school, in their communities, whatever it might be, beyond basically the academics. So those marks are very high, but as I said, I think we'll see starting next year, maybe not next year, but the year after, because this year too, much of it has been during COVID. But I will just tell you for this academic cycle, for September, we had about 15,000 students apply for 1,800 spots. So it's a huge undertaking to evaluate and assess 15,000 students. But again, it speaks to the demand that this program has for these students, this is a good problem to have. This is a good problem to have. And the other thing is that, when we think about diversity, and when I was going to McGill, we never talked about women in engineering, and in fact, I just said I'm an engineer. And then it was only later on, after the Montreal Massacre, where I started to think for the first time about women in engineering. But today there is a focus on it because I think the scholarship and research has clearly showed that the more diversity of voices you have at the table, the better the outcomes are. And so we do keep an eye on it to understand how diverse is our student population? And so you can get a sense of where we're at. This is just looking at first year enrollment by undergraduate program. So some of our programs have higher numbers of women, like biomedical engineering's closer to 58, 60% women typically. Maybe we should be lowering that to 50-50 men, women. Chemical engineering's doing very well, close to 40%. Civil, about 30%. Computer engineering last year was 31%. I was shocked. Normally, computer engineering is about 20%. So somehow, computer engineering did very well. The other one that did incredibly well last year was software. 40% women. That's unbelievable. Again, normally software is more like 20, 22%. I don't know if it's related to COVID, and I do think perhaps it is, because with the opportunity, when I talked to our admissions person, he said that he felt, this is just his own personal projections, women had got, because of COVID, the high school girls had gotten more into coding, things to do, I guess, when there wasn't other things to do, and they'd gotten more interested in it and started to take it more. So that might be one factor. He said that maybe it's because of the extracurriculars. Many people couldn't participate in extracurriculars, and disproportionately men tend to do that more than women, so maybe it hurt the men a little bit. I'm not sure, but this was very unusual. So we'll see if this trend continues. But that class is very different in terms of the culture, in terms of the way that it is. And I met with them, and I was speaking to some of the young men in the class, and I said, how do you feel? And they go, we love it. Like, they were so happy. There were so many women in the class. I'm like, okay, good. I'm glad to hear that, that you're so excited about it. All right. Now, I did want to spend a little bit of time talking about Conrad, because as I told you earlier, I really feel that this is a unique opportunity for us, having this business school really adjacent in terms of our structure in our faculty to some of the other academic units. And really, the mandate for this school is to be the academic engine of entrepreneurship and innovation education at Canada's most entrepreneurial and innovative university, the University of Waterloo. And really to become one of the world's leading centers for entrepreneurship and innovation education, and globally respected for the quality of their scholarship in the space of entrepreneurship. So really, this really matches well with one of our signatures at the University of Waterloo, which is entrepreneurship. But we've done it, but we've never really studied it. What causes entrepreneurship to happen? What are the characteristics of the people that would go into this? So this gives us a really nice opportunity to also start to understand it better and to help support it. And just to give you a sense of how this school has permeated through our programs, at the undergraduate level, we now have an option in entrepreneurship in engineering. So any students in engineering can sign up to do this option in entrepreneurship for those that are interested. We also have a minor in entrepreneurship if you want to just take a couple of courses related to it. In the co-op, we've also integrated a co-op. You can take an enterprise co-op or an e-co-op if you have an idea for a venture, and you can now spend and are supported to through mentorship and a little bit of funding to try and spend your co-op term thinking about how to bring that idea forward. We also have, for our younger students, something called Bridging Entrepreneurs to Students, or BETS, and this was really an initiative that had started probably over 10 years ago now, because the first year students, it's the hardest job you're going to get, is the very first job. After that, it's no problem. And we were struggling to get jobs for the first year students, so we thought, well, in our region, we have so many startups. What are ways we can help them? We can help them by giving them people power, really. And our first years need jobs. So we started this program, and it gives the students a chance to work at 3 or 4 different startups for a month each, as well as some introduction to entrepreneurship. The students that go through this program are some of the first students placed in the next round. So it's really a fabulous experience. And many of the students get so interested in entrepreneurship, they also go on to either do an e-co-op or something later on. So it's been a really, really successful program. And now Conrad is looking at the development of an engineering and business degree, which is under development right now. So it's going to be ready probably in the next 2 or 3 years, assuming we're going to move forward with it. We get all the approvals, et cetera. But it's really a business degree for the 21st century. So it'll be a mix of engineering technical knowledge paired with business right away. So you're not going to be an engineer when you graduate. It won't be an accredited engineering program, but it'll be, what is that core technical knowledge that will help a business or someone with that core technical knowledge and business move forward in either leading a company, a technical company, or starting their own company. At the graduate level, Conrad does offer their own program, which is a Master's in Business, Entrepreneurship, and Technology, the MBET degree. So right now, Conrad does not offer any undergraduate programs specifically in their own department. They also offer a graduate diploma in Business and Entrepreneurship. They also offer this MBET part-time and they're just in the approval stages now for a PhD program in their unit, which is really about advancing the scholarship of entrepreneurship in terms of understanding what are the characteristics of entrepreneurs, all the other things about it. So that's really exciting. We're launching a pilot this September called the Entrepreneurial PhD Program. Although our undergraduate students are very entrepreneurial minded and many go off to be entrepreneurs, I think we haven't given those same opportunities to our graduate students. So what we're going to be doing this September is this Entrepreneurial PhD Program. And really, I think the communication is going to go out next week. If you're sort of 1 or 2 years into your PhD, the PhD students that do have an interest in business and maybe commercializing the research they're working on will have an opportunity to do a pitch. And if selected, those students will be provided with a fellowship to do the part-time MBET alongside their PhD. And that's very, very doable. And so when they finally graduate with their PhD, they will graduate with their PhD and an MBET together. So a double degree, really. And hopefully the knowledge and skills to go off and possibly commercialize their research or possibly go into business or whatever they might do. And really, the longer term is really to attract a different kind of PhD student, not one that just wants to do, very deep technical information and kind of discovery-based information where they're advancing science, but someone that wants to take a really good scientific idea and go on to commercialize it. And so I think it's a really interesting proposition. We're going to take 10 students this year. It won't just be engineering. I was very generous and said we'll do it across the campus because we do have PhD students across the campus that are interested in these things. So we are going to have 4 from engineering, I think 2 from science, 1 from math, 1 from health, 1 from the environment, 1 from arts or something. So, and I've committed funding to it. The provost has committed funding, and each of the deans has committed funding to just trying it out. And it'll give us a sense of the appetite for this kind of thing. So I'm really, really excited about this. And eventually, I'd love to create the very first entrepreneurial PhD program in the country, in the world even maybe. I don't think there's any in the world right now, so that would be really exciting, where you enter into it knowing that you are going to be both looking at a deep technical problem, but also trying to commercialize it along the way. Okay. Again, just to give you a sense of entrepreneurship, we're number one. We're number one in Canada, and really when you look at just an interesting stat, 18.6% of the tech founders in Canada graduated from the University of Waterloo. But when we look at, globally, how much of that, university population do we have? Only 3.6% of the full-time students in Canada come from the University of Waterloo. So it really shows that disproportionate effect. If we were doing just as well as everybody else, 3.6 of the tech founders in Canada would be from Waterloo. But you can see we're 6-fold higher than that. So we really stand out, and this is one of our signature strengths. Okay, so again, just finishing up on this, really to give you a sense, maybe more broadly beyond the campus, but we are considered the #1 entrepreneurial university in Canada. We have the most billion-dollar private companies created by students, alumni. That's from PitchBook, a kind of an outside ranking system. I just started reading the book Super Founders. I don't know if anybody's read that book, but it has an interesting graph where he's really, this person who wrote it, gathered 30,000 data points of the unicorn companies, the companies that had scaled and reached $1 billion valuation. And he was looking at the characteristics. Who are these people that have founded these companies? Why did their companies go to $1 billion? Why did they become the unicorns compared to the baseline of the companies that did well but didn't get there? And one graph he said that I keep thinking about is he showed where did they study? Where are these people coming from? These people that had started these companies, did they all study? Some of them don't have degrees, some of them do. But if they did have a degree, where was it? And 12th in the list is the University of Waterloo. In terms of, again, it goes to this, the number of billion-dollar companies that people from this university have gone on to create. That's, again, an exceptional outcome. We were the only Canadian on the list. Top of the list was Stanford, and they were doing very, very well. I think MIT was there, a couple of others, but then we were 12th. That's amazing in terms of it. What are the things we're doing here that are leading to that kind of really exceptional outcome? The other thing is the Waterloo-Toronto corridor. This is one of the fastest growing and densest innovation clusters, innovation hubs in the entire world in terms of the rate of change that we're experiencing now. I think we're second in the world or something like that. It's unbelievable. So there's a lot of there's a lot of momentum here right now. And when I heard the students say that, I was like, okay, that's part of this momentum, this change in terms of the culture here. And really my aspirations are, what is the brand of Canada? people trust Canada. You know, we look at good government, people and things like that. You know, could one of our brands be trust in technology? So that if a technology is developed in Canada, we know it's imbued with trust. We know it's imbued with ethics. I think that could be part of our brand into the future in terms of accelerating the momentum around this Waterloo-Toronto corridor and more broadly across the country. And then Velocity, that's one of our incubators here on campus. That secured $2 billion in funding, a 40% increase raised by alumni and residents since 2019. That's, again, amazing in terms of the acceleration, the momentum in this area. So many of you may have donated to that. Thank you so much for supporting that if you have. But it's really, there's a lot of momentum starting to occur in this space. And then I think this is my final slide on it, but just gives you a sense of the Waterloo-Toronto corridor. It really is the largest concentration of technology companies and startup activity in Canada. And 1,000 plus startup companies were founded by a Waterloo engineer, a student, an alumni, a staff or faculty. That's part of that. That's part of that story in terms of the number of companies that have been founded. Okay, so I already said ranked top 15 in the world, but I had to remind you of that again. But in terms of research now, so I've talked a little bit about entrepreneurship, but let's talk about research, which again I think is another signature area. We do have research strength that is globally recognized around the world, but these are just some of the metrics of the vibrancy of our research program. We have 23 Canada Research Chairs. These are chairs that are federally funded, and they're given to universities, provided to universities, really depending, they're allocated based on our research activity and how well we're doing around across the country. And so we have 23 of these, which is really amazing. We have 14 university research and endowed chairs as well. We have 7 industrial research chairs, and that's something that's changing a little bit because NSERC, the federal body, has now said they will no longer fund these industrial research chairs, so we're looking at new models to continue to fund them because we do so much industry relevant work that it has to be an avenue for us to support industry in a particular area to continue advancing knowledge in that area. And again, we were able to secure last year $84 million in external research funding. That's amazing in terms of our ability, the trust people have and the investment people are making in us to help advance knowledge in particular areas, both I would say in the kind of the more scientific pure sense, but also applying knowledge to different sectors and things. We're hiring really fabulous people. We have 57 early research award recipients. So this is going to be the next generation of our faculty. So they're early stage professors, but they're already doing really well. They're already kind of distinguishing themselves in terms of what they're able to do. So this is a really good sign and means that we've hired well in terms of the types of people that we've brought in. And then we have over 1,000 industry partners. So that's amazing too. And again, I think it speaks to our signature of the connection between industry and this university. And really this university was founded by people from industry. So we've always, our roots are in having that very, very close connection with industry. The other thing that we're really focusing on now, and we do have a new president, for those of you that are coming to the lunch on the green, Vivek Goel will be there. He just started last July. He's from U of T. He is a public health expert. In fact, he's been leading the way in terms of our COVID response, both provincially but also nationally. So his whole career has been in public health. He helped fund Public Health Ontario Public Health. And so he's really said that, you know, as an outsider coming in, he really sees an opportunity for us in health tech. We have such strength in technology, engineering. We need to start to apply that to health. And I think with COVID, it has really shown the really important role engineers play in health broadly and in global health, public health. And you know, if you think about outcomes around health, if we think about global health over time, it's really been the engineers that have made the most significant impacts, I'd say. Clean water, sanitation has led to us, you know, in the late 1800s, the average age of mortality was 30 years old. But because of sanitation, because of clean water, you know, and because of a number of other things, really the engineers have been doing, it's climbed up to, like in Canada now, 76, 80 years old and things. So I would say that the engineers are the unsung heroes that have helped, you know, progress global health around the world. And we're in the background. People don't know that. They would never really make that connection. So what else can we do in terms of health tech, remote health delivery, whatever it might be? And so we are looking more and more at kind of that integration, that intersection between engineering and medicine and health more broadly. And it's reflective in our undergraduate programs because we did start a few years ago, a number of years ago now, offering a biomedical engineering program. So it's being manifest now too in our undergraduate and graduate programs. The other area that we're very focused on is the Sustainable Development Goals, as much of the rest of the world is. And really, these are some of the most important issues that our planet is facing. And many of our students have knowledge of these things and want to be engaged in it. These are very, very large, complex programs rooted in people. And so it's really getting our students to now think about not just technology, like, can we do it? Can we do it? But should we do it? What will the impact be on the people? And really having a very people-centered view of anything we do, and teaching them how to engage with stakeholders, teaching them how to define what the problems we should be solving instead of just trying to solve the problem. And so myself, along with all the deans across the country, probably about 2 or 3 years ago now, just before the pandemic, looking at the UN Sustainable Development Goals, really defined a series of challenges specifically for Canada, and we call it the Canadian Engineering Grand Challenges. And if anybody's interested, I'm happy to share the document with you. But these were really a series of challenges we wanted to engage our students with over 2020 to 2030, over a decade. Really, inspiring action to improve life for Canadians in the world in specific areas that were rooted in the UN SDGs, but ones we felt engineers with their particular skill set could contribute to. So it's been really wonderful to start to engage in that and engage our students in it. One of the ways we've done that is just this past winter, we did offer a pilot course for third-year students here, third-year engineering students. We called it a How to Change the World course. We did it in collaboration with Queen's, McGill, Ryerson. And so we were bringing our engineering students together. We had 100 engineering students total, 25 from each university. And we really wanted them to engage with the UN SDG, with a Canadian Engineering Grand Challenge. And really, the first part of it was really defining the problem and getting our students to work with other engineers from other disciplines, from other universities, to think about what problem am I most passionate about. And the way we paired them together was based on their passions. We tried to create diversity in terms of their disciplines, in terms of the universities, but the thing that brought them together was the passions. What were the things they really wanted to do in terms of the mission, their mission, in terms of the way they wanted to help the world. And so it was really been an interesting experience to see them do that. And it ended up in a design showcase eventually, where they came up with not only what the problem is to be solved, but their initial ideas of how to solve the problem. My hope was that those students now are going into their 4th year, their capstone program. Can they then take some of those ideas and advance them even more? So we're looking at this now to see how we can advance these ideas of getting the engineering students to work with some non-engineers, to learn the language, to learn how to work with these people. Because when you go off into the workforce, you're going to have to work with a variety of people. So I think there's all sorts of great educational outcomes that can happen. The other new initiative we've started is related to our PhD program. When we look around, we really don't see very many black professors. We have one black engineering professor in chemical engineering who's a wonderful professor, Tiz McConan. We have no Indigenous professors right now, although we just hired one in architecture, David Fortin, who just started in March. I'm so pleased about that. But we really thought, how can we accelerate people that have the right background to be even considered for faculty positions? So we did launch the IBET PhD project in January 2021. We launched it with 5 other engineering schools. Waterloo was the lead, but the U6 in Ontario. The program has been so popular, it's now expanded to 13 universities across Canada, and really it's about providing opportunities for black students and Indigenous students to get a PhD. So this isn't taking away any opportunities from anybody else to get a PhD, but it's just adding an opportunity for another group of people to get a PhD. And so the first cohort started in September 2021. We had 17 IBET Momentum Fellows. With the increase, we already have another 10 that are going to be starting next September, and so this is just going to grow. This program is modeled after an incredibly successful program in the US called the PhD Project, which was really about business schools and offering opportunities for, at the beginning in the 1990s, I think it was black students to get a PhD. It's since expanded to other students. But today, the success of that program is that 1,500 students that went through that PhD project are now professors around the world. So it's been incredibly impactful in terms of the outcomes part of this is a mentorship network, part of it is a mentorship opportunity and networking opportunity amongst each other. And really, part of the reason I wanted to do this was to reimagine our PhD program, and really with a very student-centric lens to see what are those elements as a PhD student that would be really impactful to you, and to learn from this to help improve the PhD experience for all of our students. The other thing, very, very recent, with the real tragedy, what's going on with Ukraine now, we've just started a cross-campus collaborative effort, really led by our Waterloo AI Institute, to host about 30 Ukrainian students on campus for an academic internship. The students just started arriving a couple of weeks ago. They're still arriving. They will be arriving over the next few weeks as well. So we basically provided them with airfare to get here, room and board at St. Paul's College to stay there for the summer, an opportunity to work in one of our professors' research labs for the summer, a small stipend and things. And it was just one small contribution we could provide to these students whose lives have just been completely uprooted and displaced because of the war in Ukraine. Many of them are computer science students, computer engineering students. Some of them are months away from graduating. They would have been months away from graduating, fourth-year students. They're writing exams now, they're completing their degrees. Some of them are graduate students partway through their graduate degree. So we want to try and see how we can help them to continue their studies, to work with their universities in Ukraine. And things like that. So we just started a new fund to support students, these students, but also other students who have had their education disrupted by conflict, war, or changing political environments in their country. And we've already started with an initial contribution of $200,000 towards this. So we're really starting what we're calling a Students at Risk program. And we started with the Ukrainian students, partially because the Canadian government made it very easy for them to get visas and things to get here quickly. But we really want to do this for any student around the world that finds themselves in a conflict area that disrupts their studies. Thank you. I'm going to meet them all on Thursday, so because we're going to have a big barbecue at St. Paul, so I'm looking forward to that. Okay, just a couple more slides, and then we'll be done our lecture. I don't want to go over time, and I am used to 50-minute slots in speaking. So, Tiz McConan, I did mention him as our Black faculty member. He's just so amazing. He has been named the director of the IBET PhD program for the next few years, and so he will be leading this national initiative across the country. My hope would be that we can engage all of the universities that offer a PhD program to be involved in this really important initiative. In terms of some of the leadership changes, Mario Ioannidis has been appointed chair of chemical engineering. He just started last July. He's doing a wonderful job. He sends me many emails in Latin that I have to translate for those of you that know Mario, but that's been good. I'm learning myself. Kankar Bhattacharya has been appointed chair of ECE just recently, May 1st, 2022. So he's working very hard already and excited about that role. And then Bill Woodworth has been appointed as our native elder in residence for the Faculty of Engineering. And so this is one of the ways that we're going to start to percolate, diffuse Indigenous ways of knowing and being into our faculty. Bill is an architect by training. He has his PhD in it. So our School of Architecture had been using him regularly to teach classes to the architectural students. But now we've brought him into our main campus as well. He has so much knowledge related to design, and he's already started to do some lectures related to design, how Indigenous people would approach design, and how it's different maybe from other ways of approaching design to give different perspectives to both our faculty but also our students. Notable achievements. Our faculty are awesome rock stars, and they're doing really well. Rick Haldenby, who's a prof in the School of Architecture, received the Order of Canada this year, the highest accommodation you can get as a Canadian. Sanjeev Bedi, a prof for the past 35 years here at the university in mechanical and mechatronics engineering, just received the Medal for Distinction in Engineering Education for 2022 from Engineers Canada. The ceremony was just a few weeks ago. Sanjeev was really some of the brains behind that Ideas Clinic that's in E7, some of you may have seen. And I was actually saying to Beth, maybe next year we should engage you guys in an Ideas Clinic activity. So you're doing some hands-on stuff with a little bit of competition, because I know some of you are very competitive, but some way to remind yourselves of what it was like to be a student and the kinds of things our students are doing today. 5 of our faculty members were named as fellows of the Canadian Academy of Engineering. So David Clousey in systems design, Dwayne Cronin in mechanical, Karim in electrical, Mariana Polak in civil, and Zong Chao Tan in mechanical engineering. This is, again, for an engineer the technical contributions, really one of the highest honors you can get as a Canadian. We also got some from our Ministry of Education Provincial Awards of Excellence to a student, Lucas Wentang, for some of the really innovative work they had been doing during COVID, and a staff member, Angela Paz, for some of the contributions she had made to student learning and student outcomes during the COVID-19 pandemic. And then finally, Evelyn Yim and Aping Yu, both from chemical engineering, were named University Research Chairs just a few months ago. Just 2 more slides, I think. Waterloo at 100. This is a picture of our president, so in case you see him on campus today, be very kind to him and say hello and say how much you love engineering. But what do we do as an institution, and what do we aspire to become by our 100th anniversary in 2057? Give your feedback. There's a link here where you can think about what would you like to see Waterloo at 100 as we kind of age and become a little bit older teenager in university years. What do we want to be like? Where do we want to go? And I love this idea of planning longer term versus just 5 years. Where do we want to be? Okay, Lucas, where do you want to be? All right. One of the things he's thinking about is, as part of this, the futures framework. How do we integrate into that framework? How and where can Waterloo make impacts on our biggest and shared challenges in kind of the social aspects? Again, technology is so pervasive in all of our lives. It's intertwined with who we are as a humanity. But again, should we do it? Should we be making these technologies now that could have significant impacts on our experiences as humans? So the social aspects, the future, our economic framework for the future, health framework, sustainable futures in terms of the sustainability of our world around us, and the technological future. So he's really framed this conversation very nicely in the form of these 5 futures frameworks. So I think it's really wonderful. There's some things he's written about it, so please engage in this. Please give us your ideas, your wisdom. You guys are inherently part of the University of Waterloo through your connection, through your experience. And so we want to hear what you would like your university to look like at that time. And that's it. My lecture is over now. Thank you so much, everybody. Okay, I was a few minutes over my 50 minutes, or maybe a little bit more, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. I'm going to be around. I'm going to be at the lunch. I'm happy just to mingle with everybody, to let you go off and do other things. But if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them now. Yes?
What would be the next discipline you would consider, and would green tech be one of them?
What would be the next discipline I would consider? And sorry, would green tech, did you say?
Correct.
Be one of them? That's an interesting question. I don't know about, there's a lot of green tech going on now, but it's in different pockets. Chemical engineering is looking at green processing. Electrical engineering is looking at green computing, because when we look at all the crypto things, huge amounts of energy are being used to mine Bitcoin and all this kind of stuff, something we're not really talking about much. So this is my own personal bias, so I'm not speaking on behalf of the professoriate here, but I do think there is a need to look at the connection between humanity and engineering in some way, in my opinion, because of the intertwined nature of that and the significant impact and toll, in some cases, technology has on humanity. And to create a discipline that would look at those combined. Systems may say they do that already, but maybe in a more intentional sense in terms of that connection between technology and society. But that is my personal, as Mary Wells' opinion. I'm not saying that. If you said to my professors that, they may say, that's the craziest idea I've ever heard. I don't know, but that's just my personal reflections right now. Yes? Do we have any demographics on diversity of the faculty? I can tell you that we have about 20% female in our faculty in terms of gender diversity. I can tell you that I think the majority don't do their PhDs at Waterloo, and I don't know what fraction have grown up somewhere else, have done their undergrads in another country from Canada, but I would think it's probably about 15 or 20%, which really adds a richness in terms of experiences and things like that. So age demographic, in some units we have an older professoriate than in others, but I don't know specifically what you're looking for, but I can definitely get the data for you if there's specific things that you're after. Yeah, okay, all right. Yes? So the question is, I showed first year demographics in terms of numbers stuff. How has retention changed? So generally, retention is very good. At least it has been in the last few years. Like I think from the people that start in first year that don't go into second year, let's say, I think it's in the order of like 2 or 3%. Not all of those are failures. It may be just students saying, look, I don't really like engineering. I want to move into science, or I want to move into something else, or whatever. But it's about that. COVID, so it's typically 2 or 3%. During COVID, it went down to 0%, which is scary a little bit because it means there's people in the system that maybe shouldn't be here, and so they've now been allowed to go to second year, maybe even third year. And as exams start in person and things, there may be kind of an adjustment, really, in terms of the capabilities of the students. It's hard to say. So we're a little bit worried about that. We did have our first series of in-person exams last term. The students were terrified. They were absolutely terrified about writing these exams. They did okay. We did see in the upper years slightly higher fail rates for particular courses, but nothing. We were pleasantly surprised that it wasn't worse than we thought it would be. This term, we will again. There may be somewhat of a correction, I would say. So, yes. Oh, and then I'll go to the other person. Yes.
Do we have any plans to sort of increase mental health support, especially for?
Yeah, great point. Yeah, no, for sure. So any plans to increase mental health supports? The university and the faculty have invested so heavily in mental health for students, and we've been doing it in, maybe our approach has been different. Like in the past, we would just give more and more counselors, but it didn't seem to help. Like there was just so much. So we've invested now in wellness coordinators to really kind of proactively help students and prepare them for first year, for example, where they're used to 90%. This is how they define themselves, and that's not going to happen anymore. So I keep telling everybody, 60 is a new 90, just so you get prepared. Like, don't, and I tell their parents too, and when I talk to parents, I said 60 is the new 90, because parents are saying, can we have a parent portal to see their marks? And I'm like, well, no, you can't. I mean, you've got to let them go. So we are doing proactive things to help students, and we have all sorts of supports in place in terms of peer mentorship, mates, and things like this. So I'm not sure. I don't know. I think we are learning best practice around mental health, and the university is so committed to it. It's something I worry about. It's something I'm committed to. And in some ways, we're trying to do everything we can, but I don't know if it's enough, and I'm just not sure if we're not doing the right thing in terms of how we can support them. The reality is, you're going to suffer in engineering a little bit, and that's part of life. It's part of life a little bit. I mean, and it makes you stronger. But just to prepare them for that and what that might feel like, and when you suffer together, it's a little easier. I don't know. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Okay, I think you had a question. Then I'll go over here. Yes.
Can you give us a bit of an update on Waterloo Engineering Endowment Fund and how that's going?
Okay, yeah. Good point. I don't know if I know them. Beth, do you know the numbers? The Waterloo Engineering Endowment Fund. I know it's doing incredibly well, but I don't know the number. But if you come and see me afterwards, I will get the number for you. And we'll make sure we include it in the future. But sorry, does Prachi know? Oh, Prachi, do you know where we're at with the Waterloo Engineering Endowment Fund? Yeah, so around 15 or 20 million. It's amazing. You guys started it. I have supported it, and it's now at $15 or $20 million. And every year we use it both to support the student initiatives, but also the faculty initiatives to help improve the educational experience of the students. So, sure.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, what is the do you know the percent? Because I've heard that a lot of students are opting out, or the voluntary contributions have gone down.
Yeah.
And also, what are you finding in terms of alumni support and donations to engineering?
Okay, yeah. So maybe Prachi, I'll get you to answer the alumni support. Just about, so the question was about, are students still supporting it? Are the alumni supporting it? So when the Ford government came in, they did do this repeal where they wanted students to be able to opt out of contributions they were making. So we did see a decline in the students. I think it went down to maybe 60%. So about 40% had opted out. That has since been repealed. It was challenged in court. So that will change where students will be required. And sometimes the students don't really understand the benefit of it until later on. And so we have said that we need to do a better job with just indicating on labs and stuff supported by WEEF, so that they get a sense of how they're contributing. And I do want our students to to graduate from Waterloo Engineering thinking, part of being an engineer is being generous with your talents, with your resources, whatever you might have. So we've tried to instill that through Giving Tuesday and things like that. So in terms of alumni giving, Prachi, do you have a sense? Can you maybe? Okay, so we're 20 million. So Prachi's our director of advancement at the back, so she knows all the data about that. Now, what about, can we check about alumni giving to WEEF or how?
Yes, we can, and that's what I'm saying. So all along we didn't have an option on the main page, but we felt that changed recently, so alumni can directly donate.
Okay. Okay, so alumni can directly donate. It's on the main page. Do we have a sense of what percentage or how much, or we can get that for you. If you connect with us, we'll find out. Yes.
This is an opportunity. You have alumni.
Everybody donate to WEEF. Thank you, thank you. Everybody, if you want to, donate to WEEF. Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you. All right, you should be up here with me. I'm going to invite you here next time. Okay, sorry, you and then you. Yes, go ahead.
You spoke very briefly about the strategic vision, the strategic goal. Could you expand a bit on how the Board of Governors is formed and if there's an independent governance over the Faculty of Engineering or if it's the university?
So if I understand your question correctly, like what role the Board of Governors plays, and what kind of oversight there is over the Faculty of Engineering in our strategic plan, is that right?
And how the roles are filled on the board.
Okay, so in terms of the governance generally of a university, and please let me know if I'm not speaking the right thing, it's called a bicameral system. So on the academic side, our highest body is Senate, and that's really the body we go to approve anything academic. We didn't get our strategic plan approved through Senate. We didn't need to do that, but we definitely created it with consultation with alumni, faculty, things like that, but we never got it officially approved. The Board of Governors really governs the university from the financial perspective. And so the president will report to the Board of Governors. So there's kind of these two modes of governance, and most universities are set up like this. And so all academic matters go through the Senate for approval, all kind of financial and things go through the Board of Governors for approval. So we never had to we will inform them of our strategic plan, but it's not like they could say, no, you can't do that. I think if there were concerns that would come back, clearly we would take them very seriously because they're in charge of the money. So if they don't want to support our strategic plan, that's a big problem. So, but there's no kind of formal oversight where they could say, no, we don't want you to do that or go in that direction. But like I said, although there isn't that formality, if the president isn't agreeing with it and the board, then why are we fighting against the forces at our university and things? So I hope that helps explain it a little bit. Okay. There was a question. Okay, yes. Go ahead. No.
My question is related to civil. I'm civil 90s.
Okay.
So a little bit biased here. I did immigrate to the U.S. and I'm a small business owner now. My experience has been that there's a real shortage of civil engineers, certainly in the U.S. I'm now in California, have been. And I suspect there's similar issues here in Canada. I'm curious as to your thoughts as to increased civil enrollment, that connection between infrastructure and
Yeah,
civil.
absolutely. I totally agree with you. So civil engineering graduate, what are my thoughts related to civil? I completely agree with you. And now the person asked me about what program would I look at. The other one would be, you've reminded me, is the integration of civil with robotics and stuff, that fusion between the two in terms of our infrastructure and things like that. So right now with the governments in Ontario, they have created a corridor system. So we are capped at how many students we can take. There's huge demand for civil. We're just not in a position where we can take any more students right now because of the way the system is being set up and the way that we are constrained with the government. And that this cap has been on us now for probably about 5 years. And the Ford government just recently got back in, so I don't know if that's going to change anytime soon, unfortunately. But civil engineering is a program in huge demand, I would say, right now. We see the number of applicants increasing all the time. So civil engineering, to be honest, it's one of the best run academic units in the faculty right now, partially because of the leadership, a long-standing leadership. It's just a really, really great department. They've been really innovative with some of their graduate programs, and so we're working with the Faculty of Environment around future cities and things like that. So beyond the undergraduate program, we are looking at innovative ways to create opportunities for students that may not have a civil background but are interested in the future of cities, infrastructure, things like that, to engage in that. So we're finding other ways to do it. But right now, we won't be increasing, and this is maybe the challenges too with any new programs, is we're not in a position to do that now until the government kind of opens things up a little bit to the corridor system. Now, there was a question here, yes?
I'm curious about your entry students. Students used to come to you with 5 years of high school education.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Coming with 4 now.
Yeah.
What sort of an impact is that?
Yeah, great point. So you're right. So many years ago, students, we had grade 13 in Ontario. Then the government switched it to grade 12, and we had the double cohort and stuff. It's really on the math side that we found that we've had to kind of beef up the entry level, the math readiness we provide to the students. And it was unfortunate that, you know, at that time, the high schools and universities didn't work together, at least in engineering, to say these are really the kinds of key competencies we need for students to be successful in engineering. So we've adjusted, though, I would say. At the very beginning, after the double cohort, we were seeing, you know, failure rates after first year of 20%. It was bad. So we had to really do a whole first year task force to figure out what was going on, to adjust what we were teaching and the way we were teaching it, to kind of address, it wasn't the students' fault, they just weren't given the knowledge to address that issue. The one thing I would say, and this is just really my own personal observations, the loss of grade 13 has really hurt the young men way more than the young women. And it's really, I have a son who's 18, and the difference in maturity, the young men appear to need, on average, just 1 or 2 more years to mature. To a little bit, or maybe longer, I don't know, I hear some people laughing. But to catch up a little bit to the women at that moment in time. But so I think it actually, so that's something that worries me, the impact it continues to have on the young men. So I don't know. Okay, do I have to let them go, or can we take more questions? Yes, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, kind of from an academic point of view, I mean, we've seen with COVID, how parents have seen sort of the new ways of delivering education, and I'm wondering sort of maybe at the university level, what do you see kind of coming in the future of education, delivery, assessment,
Yeah.
about exams and struggling, like we want to produce great quality students to get into the workforce. I was wondering how you see education changing maybe at the high
Yeah, that's a really great point. How will education change? And I do think some of the forces at play were coming, but much more slowly, and COVID accelerated a lot of our activities around the use of technology to help us deliver materials. And so one of the things that the students said they loved about the online lectures was the fact that they could go back and rewatch things. Like if they couldn't really understand it the first time, they could stop it, they could look, they could go back through that more slowly, so they could kind of customize their learning. I think that's something that will stay. Many of our faculty now are doing more of a flipped classroom. So they've already recorded these lectures. If they're teaching the same class, they may tweak them a little bit, but they have them available to the students as one mode of learning, and they use the classrooms differently, some of them now. Let's focus more on problem solving versus giving you the materials. There's still value, I think, and maybe I'm old-fashioned, in writing down equations. It's part of the way we learn. And so I worry a little bit about passively reading things as engineers versus actively writing things down. And you know, sometimes in the classroom, the pace of being able to write something on the chalkboard is the pace that you can acquire the information versus PowerPoints zooming by quickly. So we're still figuring all that out. But I do think technology will be used much more, and it has been accelerated by the pandemic in a variety of ways. The other thing I think it affords us is an opportunity for our students to engage with students from around the world, much more than maybe we thought was even possible in terms of design projects maybe. Again, if we end up looking at sustainability or an issue in Africa, let's work with students in Africa, let's talk to them, let's see what's going on, how are the things we can help, or something in Canada. So I do think it creates other opportunities for connections. We are seeing with co-op now that some of the companies are saying, just stay remote. Like, so some of our students now are staying in Waterloo and doing a remote co-op still, because the companies see some value in it. Although I see Elon Musk is now saying everybody has to be back in the office or you're gone, working 40 hours. 40 hours a week. 40 hours a week, yeah. So anyway, so we'll see. But so I do think we'll continue to study it and see what are the benefits of it. And we are starting this teaching incubator here at the university. Part of it is to capitalize on all the ed tech stuff that has come out of the pandemic, and maybe even commercialize some of it. Like, this is our business, right? We should be looking at that. So, any other questions? Oh yes, go ahead.
Has anything changed with the way co-op firms are structured to be able to get into different companies that are maybe used to
I know mechanicals, so no, generally no. We still have 4-stream, 8-stream. I know some of the programs are looking at integrating intentionally an 8-month co-op later on. Mechanical's now talking about it. Part of the motivation for that is to bring the 4A stream back together. So that means one stream will have an 8-month. And I was really pushing them to do that too. Again, mental health, the exhaustion of, trying to study, apply for co-op, moving, they're kind of constantly on the hamster wheel, never having a break. So even just have an 8-month where you're just settled for a month makes a little bit of a difference. So, just to give you some stats, first-year students on average are applying for about 100 jobs. That's a lot. I was like, that's a lot. International first-year students are applying for about 120. That's a lot on top of an incredibly difficult, workload to do that. And, they may be going to 20 or 30 interviews. That's a lot of time to get one job. It goes down to about sort of 60 or 80, but it's still a lot. That's a lot of extra work to be doing, so on top of your studies, so.
Companies want to hire students for longer. My company wants to hire students for not 4 months, but way longer.
I know, in terms of the training and stuff. So the students like having the 4-month because it gives them a chance to sample, like at a taster bar. I want to try that one, I want to try that one, I want to try that one. So we've got to find the right balance, so in terms of that. But there is a movement towards at least giving everybody structured in the program an 8-month co-op. I like it later on because then you're getting closer to deciding maybe where do I want to work in the future type thing, so yeah, so that's starting to happen, so. Okay, any other questions, or should I let you go, mingle, enjoy each other, enjoy the rest of the day? Thank you so much, everybody.